Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. I've driven a yellow cab through every corner of the city for 12 years. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that the night holds more secrets than the day. Lost souls, back alley deals, people running from something or someone. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the night the city turned into a nightmare. That evening started like any other. I had my thermos full of coffee, the dispatch radio buzzing with background chatter, and a smooth jazz station humming beneath it all. Business was decent. Mostly bar pickups, late-night workers heading home, and the occasional oddball asking to be taken to some barely lit warehouse or motel on the outskirts. At around 11:30 p.m., I got a ping for a pickup near the old industrial sector. I almost ignored it. Nobody ever tips well from that side of town, but something told me to go. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was fate. When I pulled up, I didn't see anyone right away. The address led me to a broken chain-link gate. I kept the engine running, headlights cutting through fog that seemed to hang too low and thick for this time of year. Then I saw a figure stumbling toward the car. Middle-aged guy in a suit, pale as moonlight, with one shoe missing and a frantic look in his eyes. I leaned over to unlock the door, and he practically dove into the back seat. "Drive," he gasped. "Just go." He didn't have to tell me twice. As I pulled away, I glanced at him through the rearview mirror. His breathing was labored, his shirt stained with something dark. Maybe ink, maybe something else. I asked where he needed to go. "Downtown, anywhere with people," he said, gripping the door handle like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. That's when I noticed the sound. A low, almost metallic groaning. I turned a corner and caught a glimpse of several people, at least I thought they were people, shambling down the street behind us. Their movements were jerky, uncoordinated, like they were being marionetted by someone unfamiliar with the human body. "What's going on back there?" I asked. They're sick," he said. "Something got out from the lab. They tried to contain it, but it's spreading." I've heard a lot of wild stories in my cab, but this one made something cold crawl up my spine. "Are you saying it's some kind of sickness?" He nodded slowly, wincing as he did. "What kind of sickness?" He met my eyes in the mirror. The kind that makes people forget who they are, makes them turn on each other. I didn't respond right away. I kept driving, figuring he might be hallucinating, maybe on something. But then we passed a gas station, and that's when I saw it for myself. The front doors had been shattered. The fluorescent lights inside flickered erratically. A woman in a red coat stood over a figure on the ground. At first, I thought she was helping him, but then she lurched forward, and I saw her sink her teeth into his neck. I nearly slammed the brakes. The man in my back seat shouted, "Keep driving!" My hands were shaking, but I did what he said. I took the long way into downtown, avoiding main roads, switching off the radio as the usual late-night chatter turned into static. My passenger passed out somewhere around the financial district. I pulled over in front of a lit-up convenience store, unsure what to do next. I got out, planning to grab him some water, or maybe call someone. That's when I saw it. A city bus parked diagonally across the intersection. All its windows were broken, and the inside looked like a blender had gone off. Blood smeared the windshield from the inside. There was no driver. I heard the shuffle of feet behind me. I spun, heart pounding, and saw a man, mid-50s maybe, dressed like a janitor. His jaw was slack. His eyes looked glassy, unfocused. His shirt was torn. There were bite marks across his arm. "Sir?" I said. He didn't respond. He just kept walking toward me. I raised a hand. "You okay?" He groaned, deep and guttural. Something primal told me to get back in the cab. So I did. I barely closed the door before he reached the side window and slammed his head against it, again and again. The man in the back seat jolted awake. "Go! We can't stay here!" I hit the gas and peeled away from the curb. The janitor stumbled after us, arms reaching, face smeared with red. That's when I knew my passenger hadn't been exaggerating. Something was wrong. Horribly wrong. The streets were no longer familiar. Trash littered the sidewalks. Sirens wailed in the distance but never got closer. Every third or fourth block, I saw movement that didn't look quite right. People limping or crawling, their silhouettes twitching unnaturally under the flickering streetlights. I headed toward the heart of the city, thinking that maybe the hospitals or government buildings would still have some kind of order. But when I got to the main avenue, I saw a barricade made of abandoned cars, shopping carts, and what looked like furniture dragged from someone's living room. Fires burned in metal trash cans. A few people in uniforms were shouting, waving people back. That's when my cab got swarmed. I didn't see where they came from. Maybe the alleyways, maybe the sewers. They just poured into the street like a dam had burst. People screaming, pushing, running. One guy jumped onto my hood and began smashing his fists into the windshield, eyes wild, face twisted in fury or fear. I couldn't tell. "Back up," my passenger yelled, but I was frozen. Then the glass cracked. That snapped me out of it. I reversed, tires screeching, just as more people ran past, some with blood on their clothes, some with wild eyes. I turned down a side street, driving without direction, trying to avoid the chaos. But it was spreading. I could feel it, like the city itself was unraveling. We ended up in the underground parking structure of a hotel. It was half full. Abandoned cars with doors hanging open, luggage spilled out onto the concrete. We sat in silence for a few moments, the only sounds being my engine idling and the distant shriek of something unnatural. Then he spoke. I was a systems analyst. I worked in a lab that partnered with the government. We were researching neural stimulation, trying to accelerate repair in brain injuries. We didn't realize we pushed it too far. I stared at him. "You made this happen?" "I didn't know it would do this," he whispered. "I didn't know it would jump." Jump? To others. Through touch, through... He stopped, eyes going wide. I followed his gaze. Out of the dark shadows of the parking garage, a figure emerged. Thin, twitching, dragging one leg. Then another figure joined, then two more. "Start the car," he hissed. "Get us out of here." I didn't remember turning the wheel or shifting into drive. My body just did it. We shot out of that garage like a rocket, barely avoiding one of the things that lunged at the passenger side window. Back on the street, we drove in silence. The city was lost. We passed what used to be my favorite diner. It was on fire. A dog barked endlessly from inside a car, trapped. A man stood in the middle of an intersection, screaming something over and over. I didn't stop to listen. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. A message from dispatch. "All drivers avoid downtown. Stay in your vehicles. Do not approach infected. If you've been bitten, report immediately." Bitten? I glanced back at the man again. He was holding his side, sweating. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded too quickly. But I saw the spot, a tear in his shirt, a wound beneath it. Not deep, but there. "We need to find help," I said, even though I didn't know where to go. Hospitals overrun. Police stations, radio silence, fire stations, empty trucks parked outside. "There's one place," he said. "Where?" "Southbridge. There's a company lab, underground, secure. It has generators, lockdown systems." I'd heard of Southbridge. It was about 25 minutes away, on a good day. "Can we get there?" "If we hurry." I checked the gas. Half a tank. I gripped the wheel and turned toward the expressway. Behind us, the city fell further into ruin. The expressway out of the city looked like something out of a dream. Not the good kind, the kind you wake up from in a cold sweat clutching your chest. Cars were stopped bumper to bumper, doors left wide open, hazard lights blinking in unison like some eerie heartbeat. Some vehicles had crashed into the concrete divider. Others were just empty. It looked like people had tried to flee all at once and had been swallowed up mid-sprint. I had to swerve around several wrecks just to reach the on-ramp. My passenger, whose name I still didn't know, groaned softly in the back seat. He was sweating profusely now, his face pale and lips chapped. I didn't want to say it out loud, but it was clear. He was getting worse. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "You still with me?" He nodded barely. I asked him his name. "Leon," he mumbled. "Leon Briggs." "All right, Leon. We're getting to Southbridge. Just hang on." He gave a weak thumbs up before slumping back against the seat. My focus went back to the road. The streetlights thinned as we left the downtown core. The farther we got, the darker it became. Fog rolled in low and thick again, coating everything in a hazy gray. The kind of fog that eats sound and makes you feel like you're driving through nothing. And then, movement ahead. A figure stepped out from behind a semi-truck. I slowed, thinking it might be a survivor. It wasn't. He turned as the headlights caught him, eyes clouded, jaw slack. His shirt was torn, revealing wounds that looked wrong, like something had taken pieces out of him. Then more figures appeared, crawling out from under vehicles, climbing over trunks. Dozens. I reversed. A sharp scream rang out to my left, and I saw a woman trying to climb atop a minivan as one of the infected grabbed at her ankle. She kicked, screaming for help. I should have kept driving. That's what any sane person would have done. But something in me couldn't. I yanked the wheel, tires screeching, and pulled up alongside the van. The woman looked at me wide-eyed. "Get in," I shouted, reaching over to pop the door open. She didn't hesitate. She jumped, landed half on the seat, and I grabbed her wrist, pulling her in just as one of those things slammed into the side of the car. The door swung shut. I floored it, dodging two more infected as they reached for the windows. We sped off the ramp and back onto the main road. The woman panted heavily, holding her arm. She looked to be in her early 20s, wearing a fast food uniform. Her name tag was smeared, but I could make out the first few letters, Nat. "You all right?" I asked. She nodded, though her eyes were locked on the side mirror. "Thanks for stopping," she whispered. "Nobody else did." I glanced in the mirror, too. The crowd had already moved on, dragging themselves towards the city like moths to flame. Leon groaned again from the back seat. The woman jumped. "He's sick?" she asked. I hesitated. "He's injured. We're taking him somewhere safe." She didn't press, but she did lean slightly away from the back seat. We kept driving, avoiding any major routes. The radio had gone dead completely. No music, no dispatch. Just static. At a red light, which I stopped at out of habit even though traffic laws clearly didn't matter anymore, I saw a little girl standing alone in a parking lot. She was holding a stuffed bear, staring blankly ahead. For a second, I thought she might be real, but her skin was pale. Her dress was soaked in something dark. Her head twitched to the side in a sudden, unnatural motion. I drove through the red light. As we passed her, she turned and started to walk toward us, her little shoes scraping the pavement. I didn't look back. Southbridge was still 15 minutes away. My hands ached from gripping the steering wheel so tightly. Nat kept glancing at Leon. Is he getting worse? He's hanging on, I replied. But he wasn't. His breathing had become shallow. His skin almost translucent. He hadn't spoken in 10 minutes. Then he whispered something. I leaned closer. Code 8, Southbridge Vault, 2971. What? 2971, he repeated, eyes fluttering. I grabbed a pen from the cup holder and scribbled the number on my palm. What does that mean? Nat asked. I think it's some kind of access code. We passed a few gas stations, abandoned. The signs were flickering, and the roads leading to them were littered with backpacks and dropped suitcases. People had clearly tried to flee. That's when we came upon the barricade. Not made by authorities. This was improvised. Burned-out vehicles, fence panels, tires stacked high. Someone had built a wall across the highway. And standing atop it were people, armed, alert. I slowed as we approached. One of them raised a flashlight and pointed it directly at us. Stop the car, a voice yelled. I complied. A man walked toward us, wearing a motorcycle helmet and holding a long object. He tapped on the driver's side window with the handle. I rolled it down a crack. Where are you coming from? He asked. Downtown. He looked past me, eyes scanning Nat, then Leon. He sick? I froze. He's injured. We're heading to a secure lab, Southbridge. You can't go through. We're not letting anyone in who's been touched. Too risky. I stared at him. He's not one of them. Maybe not now, the man said, but he will be soon. Leon suddenly coughed. A harsh, wet sound that made Nat and I both flinch. The guard stepped back. Turn around, go the other way. Nat leaned forward. Please, we don't have anywhere else to go. I said turn around. Others up top aimed their flashlights, and likely more than just that. I sighed, shifted the car into reverse, and backed away slowly. When we were out of range, Nat turned to me. What do we do now? We find another way. There was an old service road I remembered from years back. Rarely used, mostly dirt, but it curved around the ridge and could bypass the main highway. We took it. Every bump rattled the cab. Trees loomed close on either side. Fog had gathered again, thicker than before, like the road didn't want to be found. It was quiet. Too quiet. Then Leon sat up straight. His eyes were wide open. Southbridge, he muttered. We're close, I said. Just hang on. But then he started shaking, like a seizure. His arms flailed, eyes rolling back. Nat gasped, pressing herself against the door. I stopped the car. Leon convulsed once more, then went still. I turned in my seat. Leon? He slowly turned his head toward me and smiled. But it wasn't a smile of relief. It was twisted, wrong. His pupils were pinpricks, his mouth opened, but no sound came out. He lunged. I yanked the emergency brake and grabbed a flashlight from the glove compartment, swinging it back just in time to catch him across the face. Nat screamed. Leon thrashed, clawing at the seat, letting out a low gurgling growl. Get out! I shouted. We both flung our doors open. Leon clawed his way into the front, snarling now, spit flying from his mouth. I reached into the back and grabbed a road flare from my emergency kit. He lunged again, and I jammed the flare toward his face, striking it. The flare hissed to life, blazing red. Leon recoiled, shielding his eyes. His skin blistered from the heat. I slammed the door shut and locked it. He pounded on the glass from the inside, red light flickering across his wild features. We stood in the dirt road, staring. Nat was trembling. We left the keys in the car. Leon slammed his head into the window. I looked around. Come on, we have to keep moving. Southbridge isn't far. We took off on foot, the flare lighting our way. Behind us, the taxi rocked as Leon howled from within. Ahead, the sky began to lighten just slightly. But the worst was far from over. The flare sputtered and hissed in my hand, painting the misty road in shades of red. Behind us, my cab sat idling with Leon trapped inside, still pounding and snarling against the windows. It wouldn't hold forever. Nat and I pressed forward into the woods along the gravel path, the trees closing in tighter with every step. Branches clawed at us from the sides, and the fog only thickened, turning the air cold and damp. How far? Nat asked. Couple of miles at most, I replied. If we stay on this trail, we'll end up behind the Southbridge facility. There's a service entrance. I've dropped off people there before. Scientists. Security types. She nodded, hugging herself tighter. A low groan echoed through the trees behind us. Not from Leon. This one was deeper, hungrier. We didn't stop to check. The trail narrowed, forcing us single file. I kept the flare high, casting light ahead in arcs. The woods had grown quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects. Just the crunch of our steps and the flare's steady hiss. After what felt like hours, the trees thinned, revealing a chain-link fence ahead. Beyond it, Southbridge. A low concrete building, squat and windowless. Floodlights illuminated a small section of its perimeter, and a satellite dish jutted out from the rooftop. The whole thing looked like a bunker built to keep the world out or in. The fence gate was chained shut, but beside it was a keypad. 2971, I muttered, pulling up the code Leon had whispered. The keypad beeped with each press. Then a green light blinked on, and the chain buzzed and clicked open. We slipped inside and shut the gate behind us. Nat turned to me, still shaken. What is this place? I don't know exactly, but I've seen enough men in dark suits go in and out of here to know it's not your average lab. We approached a steel door at the side of the structure, another keypad. I punched in the code again. Green light. The door creaked open. The inside smelled like antiseptic and machine oil. Cool air blasted from vents along the ceiling. A narrow hallway stretched ahead, lined with cameras and smooth metal doors. We stepped inside cautiously. Then the door shut behind us with a final thud. For a moment, nothing happened. Just silence. Then, click. A voice came through a hidden speaker. Male, calm. State your name and purpose. I'm a cab driver, I said slowly. My name's Jordan Ellis. I brought in Leon Briggs. He was in bad shape. Said to come here, gave me the code. There was a pause. You're not authorized personnel. No kidding. But I had a choice, leave him behind or try to get him here. So I made the trip. He didn't make it. He turned on us. We locked him in the car a mile out. More silence. You brought someone else. Yeah, Nat said. Name's Natalie Brooks. He saved my life. The speaker crackled again. Remain where you are. A security team is being dispatched. That didn't sound promising. I looked to Nat, and she gave me a shrug. Better than being stuck out there. 5 minutes later, a door down the hallway hissed open, and 4 figures stepped through. All wore matching dark uniforms and full face visors. One of them held a tablet. Hands where we can see them, the leader said. We obeyed. They approached slowly, scanning us with handheld devices. The one with the tablet studied a readout. No signs of infection, he said. The others lowered their gear. Follow us, the leader ordered. We were escorted deeper into the facility, passing rooms filled with blinking lights, sealed doors marked "Authorized Personnel Only," and windows that looked in on strange labs. Everything smelled sterile. Everything buzzed faintly with electricity. Eventually, we were brought into a small chamber with chairs, a metal table, and a large screen. The man with the tablet sat across from us. He removed his helmet, revealing a pale face and tired eyes. My name's Dr. Amos Lang. I oversee containment protocol here at Southbridge. Containment? I asked. Of what? He studied me for a long moment. Let me guess, I said. Leon wasn't just some suit, was he? Lang shook his head. Leon Briggs was a field operative for our biological response unit. His assignment was to deliver a sample, intact, to our vault here. He was ambushed. By those things. Yes. He sighed and leaned back. We were developing a cure, or rather, trying to. We knew the threat was out there, rumors, samples recovered from isolated incidents. But we didn't expect the outbreak to begin so quickly, or to spread this fast. You were preparing for this? Nat asked. He nodded. But we weren't ready. Lang looked at me. And you say he gave you the code, 2971? Yeah, repeated it right before he turned. Lang tapped something into his tablet, then stood. That code gives you clearance to enter Vault 3. That's where the sample is now. He looked at the others. Take him to the vault, the girl too. Let them see. We were led through a clean corridor to a heavy reinforced door marked Vault 3, another keypad. The guard entered the code and the door slowly opened. Inside was a chamber no larger than a garage. The walls were lined with cases and containment units. In the center sat a cylindrical glass pod, glowing faintly blue. Inside was a metal briefcase, sealed, locked, and sitting on a pedestal of reinforced steel. Lang gestured. That's what Leon was trying to bring here, a viable sample of the first strain. With it, we might be able to create something to counteract the infection. Nat stared. Why not destroy it? Because it's the only clue we have left, Lang said. And if we lose that, we're blind. As we stepped inside, alarms suddenly blared overhead. Beep, beep, beep. Security breach. Eastern access gate compromised. The lights turned red. A voice on the speaker called out, "Multiple hostiles approaching from the tree line." Lang froze. No. The guards outside readied their weapons. One of them looked at us. Stay inside. Do not leave the vault. The door slammed shut, locking us in with a loud hiss. Nat backed away from the glass case. Do you think Leon got out? I don't know, I said. But it wasn't just him, that highway crowd. They must have followed our trail. Outside the thick vault walls, we could hear distant thuds, screams, gunfire. Then closer. A loud slam against the door. Nat flinched. How strong are these doors? They're built to withstand explosives, I said, trying to sound reassuring. We're safe. More pounding. The sound of claws dragging down metal. Then, silence. A few seconds passed. Then a sharp click from the door's mechanism. Lang looked confused. That's not possible. The lock disengaged. The door cracked open slightly, and something slipped through. A shape, fast, low to the ground. It moved like liquid shadow. We all stepped back. Then it stood. Not one of the slow ones. No groaning, no slack-jawed shamble. This one was sleek. Its skin was taut, its eyes bright with something. Aware. It was evolving. The guards outside never had a chance. Lang whispered, "That's not a carrier. That's a variant." The creature tilted its head, then it rushed forward. The thing moved with impossible speed. By the time Lang hit the alarm on the wall, the variant had already crossed the room. It lunged not at him, but at the vault case. With a sound like screeching metal and bone snapping in rhythm, it slammed into the pedestal, knocking the reinforced glass sideways. The sealed briefcase clattered to the floor. Nat screamed. Lang grabbed me and yanked me behind one of the containment lockers. "It's not after us," he hissed. "It's after the sample." I peeked out. The creature had long, twisted limbs, like someone had pulled its skeleton apart and jammed it back together wrong. It had no mouth, just slits where the jaw should be, pulsing faintly like gills. And its eyes, those weren't blank. They were focused, strategic. It didn't fumble like the others. It was thinking. It lifted the briefcase and pressed its head against it. I could hear it making a faint clicking noise like it was scanning it, remembering it. Then, suddenly, it stopped. It dropped the case and turned to the door. A chorus of pounding footsteps echoed beyond the vault. Reinforcements. The variant hissed. Then, in one bound, it leapt toward the ceiling and crawled into a ventilation shaft we hadn't even noticed. Gone. Lang stood slowly, staring at the open vent. That wasn't supposed to happen. "No kidding," I muttered, heart pounding. 2 guards burst through the vault door moments later. "Dr. Lang, are you all right?" "We're fine," he said quickly. "Seal the shaft. That variant's inside the ventilation grid. It's targeting the case." The guards got to work. Lang looked at me, dead serious. "You were right to bring Leon here, even in his final moment. He made the right call." "But it wasn't enough," I said. "That thing got in." He didn't argue. Nat walked over and carefully lifted the case. "What exactly is in here?" Lang took it and set it back on the pedestal. "An engineered pathogen. First-generation strain. Purposely mutated to survive extreme conditions. We were trying to reverse engineer an immunity profile, but we underestimated how quickly it would adapt." "How many are out there now?" I asked. Lang's voice dropped. "Too many." An alert blared overhead again. "Central corridor breach, level 2 compromised. Perimeter teams falling back." He turned to us. "I need your help." I blinked. "I'm just a cab driver, man." He shook his head. "No, you're someone who made it out. That matters. You're someone the outside world will listen to." "I don't even know what I saw." "That's why you'll survive. You think like a survivor, not a soldier, not a scientist, someone real." Nat stepped forward. "What are you asking?" Lang opened a wall panel. Inside was another case, this one thinner, marked with a red cross. "A prototype serum, not a cure, but it slows progression. If you're bitten, you might have more time. Maybe hours, maybe days, I don't know. But if you can get it to the right people, they might be able to mass produce it." "You want us to leave?" I asked. Lang nodded. "We've already lost the lower floors. This facility's not going to last the hour, but there's a utility tunnel, maintenance exit. Leads 2 miles west, comes up near an old radio tower." "Great," I muttered. "Let me guess. The tunnel's not empty." Lang managed a tired smile. "Nothing is anymore." He handed me the serum case. "I don't know if this will save anyone," he said, "but I'd rather it be out there than buried in rubble when this place falls." "What about you?" Nat asked. "I'll stay, lock down what I can. There are still files here that need to be destroyed. We can't risk any of this spreading further." A loud bang echoed from somewhere above us. Dust shook loose from the ceiling tiles. No more time. Lang keyed open a hidden wall panel, revealing a narrow concrete shaft leading downward into the dark. A metal ladder waited. "Follow the tunnel west," he said. "If you reach the tower, use the broadcast panel. We rigged it for emergency short-range transmission. Signal a pickup. We'll try to relay your location." "Understood." I looked back one last time. Lang stood tall, already typing on his tablet. Then we climbed down into the dark. The tunnel smelled like rust and mildew. Low pipes lined the ceiling, dripping condensation onto the concrete floor. I led the way, holding a small flashlight Lang had given us. Behind me, Nat carried the serum case like it was made of gold. We walked in silence for minutes, maybe more. Then we heard it. The dragging footsteps. Not many, just one. A silhouette turned the corner behind us. I lifted the flashlight. Leon, but not like before. He was more decayed, bones showing through torn clothes. But what made me stop cold was his hand. He was holding something. A radio. And it was transmitting? A garbled voice buzzed from it. Then silence, then a single beep. He wasn't just wandering. He was tracking. "Run," I whispered. We bolted. The tunnel twisted, rising in a slow incline. Every few seconds I glanced back, but Leon didn't give chase. He just walked, that radio still beeping in his hand. When we reached a maintenance ladder, Nat scrambled up first. I followed, pushing open a rusted hatch. We emerged into moonlight. The forest stretched around us in every direction, but 50 yards away stood the radio tower, its beacon blinking faintly. We sprinted. Inside the shack, at its base, the control panel waited. Dusty. Old, but operational. Nat dropped the serum case beside the controls. "How do we use it?" I pressed the labeled buttons. One sparked. Another blinked to life. I grabbed the mic and hit transmit. "This is Jordan Ellis. If anyone's listening, we're alive. We escaped Southbridge. We have a case containing what may be a prototype counter-agent. We're broadcasting from the radio tower northwest of the facility. Please respond." Silence. Then, "Copy that, Jordan. Hold position. Rescue en route." I exhaled. Nat fell into the corner, eyes wide. We made it. Not quite. Outside, the forest had gone quiet again. No wind, no birds. Just stillness. I stepped out of the shack, scanning the trees. Then I saw him. Leon, standing at the edge of the clearing, head tilted, eyes glowing faintly. And behind him, others, dozens, moving with him, following him. He raised the radio to his mouth and whispered something. Then he turned and melted back into the trees. It's been hours since the message was sent. A helicopter came at dawn, military, marked with insignia I didn't recognize. They took the case, checked us for signs of exposure, and flew us out to an undisclosed base. A safe zone, at least for now. Nat's resting. She's stronger than she gives herself credit for. Me, I haven't slept. I keep hearing that whisper. Keep seeing Leon's eyes. He wasn't a lost soul. He was connected, changed, controlled. This wasn't just some random outbreak. It was organized. They were learning. And if they were learning, then this was just the first ride. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a hero. I'm a cab driver. And if I'm still here, telling you this, it means the meter's still running. And this ride's not over. Not yet. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.